Hello, my name is Morgan Wilcock. I am 20 years old. I am from Port Talbot, South Wales, and I'm currently living in London. I was given the opportunity to learn Welsh as it is a language that you need to learn in all Welsh schools. But after you are given the opportunity, you don't have to learn it again. So I only had to learn it through the years of from the years of 13 to 16, and after that I did not have to learn it again. People in my family speak Welsh. The family on my father's side, so my uncles and my grandmother and my cousins, they all speak fluent Welsh. As a young mixed race male, I have felt like I do not fit in within the Welsh community, as one, I'm not white, and two, I only speak very minimal Welsh. I believe that someone saying you're only truly Welsh if you can speak it is wrong, because as I've grown older, when I meet people, especially in uni, I tell them that I am Welsh. I don't speak it fully, and I wasn't even born in Wales, but it's the fact that I've lived there for the majority of my life. A lot of things I've done in my life have been done in Wales, and core memories of my life are in Wales. A lot of things I've done are in Wales, so in that sense I feel like I'm Welsh. Years ago I would say that no, I'm not Welsh, because I was just struggling with identity, and I felt that the country was quite racist. Not the country, but the people in the country are prejudiced and unwelcoming. But as I've gotten older, I've learned to accept that, and I've just learned to move away from it, and I understand who I am, and I am happy to say that I am Welsh, regardless of where I was born. Sometimes I wouldn't say I feel excluded when people speak Welsh, or when people I know speak Welsh, but I may sometimes find it rude, because I feel that, is there a need for you to speak Welsh in front of me if you know that I don't really speak Welsh? If they don't know that I don't speak Welsh fully, then that is fair enough. But if they know that I'm not a full Welsh speaking citizen, and they start to speak Welsh in front of me, then I don't get offended, but I just feel like it's a bit somewhat rude, because they could potentially just be speaking about me. Because why are you going to switch up the way you're speaking in front of me? But I don't know, I could just be thinking too hard. Although I don't speak Welsh, the language still means a lot to me, because at the end of the day it is my heritage. Welsh blood runs through me. I am half of my father.
Hi, my name is Rosie. I was born in Cwmbran in South Wales, and I'm currently living in the Cotswolds in Gloucestershire now. As for family and friends speaking the language, my dad is English, so he doesn't. My mum is Welsh, but she doesn't. She was part of the generation growing up in like the 70s and 80s when Welsh was really just not taught in schools at all. It was still kind of recovering, and it wasn't in the school curriculum. However, I do have some family in West Wales who speak the language. I think in that part of Wales it's spoken a lot more, and they have a lot more Welsh, fully Welsh speaking schools. So also my granddad, he lives in South Wales as well, and he's 90 years old now, but he was never taught Welsh in school. Again, he was of the generation where English was really kind of like encouraged over Welsh. In terms of feeling not fully accepted, I think where I'm from in South Wales, it's really uncommon where I'm from to hear Welsh speakers. So I personally don't really feel excluded. I guess I have a memory of like going down to stay with my auntie who speaks Welsh. And I remember we were out one day for a walk, and a man, he drove up to us and he was asking for directions, from what I could gather, but he was speaking Welsh. And then they just started like conversing fully in Welsh, and I was like completely oblivious. And that was quite odd to me. I didn't realise that it would make me feel kind of alienated, but I think it did in a way. People are really surprised that I'm Welsh because I don't really sound it. I think my accent changes a lot depending on the company that I'm around. But yeah, people are really surprised when I say that I'm Welsh. They're like, oh my gosh, you sound English. They're like, you don't sound Welsh at all. And I guess I kind of like laugh it off, but it's a bit like, oh, I do kind of wish I had a stronger accent. Yeah, I think that would make me feel a bit more confident in a way, maybe. When I used to go to my grandparents' house when I was little, I think they would try and like anglicise me in a way of when I used to speak in more of a Welsh accent or with a kind of relaxed T sound, so like butty or things like that. They would like correct me a lot of the time and try and like make me sound more English. And I have a memory of my granddad actually saying like, oh, you won't get a job sounding like a Welshman, which was really bizarre to me. Like, I didn't get it at the time, but like looking back on it, it's quite bizarre. And I think he was referring to, for example, if I wanted to go work in London, I wouldn't sound proper or I wouldn't sound educated if I had a really strong Welsh accent. And I think it's because a lot of the time in the media and in films and things, the Welsh accent or the Welsh character is seen as like the comedic relief in a way. Someone is only truly Welsh if they speak the language. Oh, I have kind of like mixed feelings about this one. It immediately makes me feel quite angry when I read that, because I'm like, no, I'm Welsh, like, you know, I'm really proud of where I come from and I wish that I could speak the language. I guess in a way I do feel a bit embarrassed, and maybe that is because I don't feel like I'm representing my country because I don't speak the native language, you know. And I'm still really fond of my homeland and the landscape and all the Welsh culture, which goes deeper, I think, than the language. I think it's really special language, actually, because there's a lot of kind of lovely phrases in it that can't be translated into English. It's also a very sort of sing-songy, very guttural, very deep, hearty language, which again is very different from English. And, you know, with the Celtic influences, it just feels really passionate. And I think as the Welsh nation are really renowned for their singers as well. And I think that is partly from having such a passionate kind of way of speaking in our language. I really think that even though actually at school, Welsh was probably my least favourite subject, everyone dreaded going to Welsh. But I just wish they'd taught us more about Welsh history, actually. If we'd learnt more about sort of myths and legends of Wales and the princes and all that kind of stuff, I would have, you know, become really, really passionate about, yes, we need to preserve the language, we need to learn more about it. So yeah, definitely that needs addressing in schools and probably educating it to an even higher level, maybe even to the age of 18, because you probably know this, but the Welsh Baccalaureate was introduced when I was in school, probably like 5 years ago now, but that was made compulsory. But that wasn't at all the actual Welsh language, and that was all skills and business, enterprise, community skills, all of that to sort of prepare us for university. So that was made mandatory, but not the language of Welsh. And I just think, you know, once you sit your exam at GCSE, as soon as you finish that paper, every single bit of Welsh seems to just disappear out of your head and you just forget it. And it is very much practice that makes you remember the language. So
my name's Alex. I've lived in North Wales my entire life on the outskirts of a town called Mold. But in recent years, I've spent half of my time down in Pembrokeshire in West Wales with my partner. I did get the opportunity to learn Welsh at school, but it wasn't particularly prioritised. And I suppose living in a Welsh town so close to the English border, it wasn't really seen as a necessity. However, my partner is first language Welsh, and so are the rest of his friends and family. So over the past few years, I've certainly picked up some phrases and started to understand the topic of their conversation, but I am a long way off learning to speak the language myself. I would say that I find it slightly alienating that I live in Wales and call myself Welsh but can't speak the language. And this is a conversation me and my mum have had on multiple occasions. The vast majority of my friends who speak fluent Welsh don't actually remember learning the language, and it was just a way of life for them as they grew up. And they agree that it is going to be really hard if I want to try and speak the language myself. I suppose at home, I've never really been made to feel like not speaking Welsh is a problem. And I suppose on a day-to-day basis, there isn't many opportunities to speak Welsh anyway. But down in Pembrokeshire, I would definitely say that things are very different. My boyfriend's friends and family make a massive effort to switch to English when I'm around. But especially in a group setting, everyone has a tendency to just slip back into Welsh. I do try to follow along as best as I can, but you are sort of forced to back out of the conversation at that point. And I don't think I'm ever really offended by that, because if that's the language that they speak every day, it's inevitable they're going to slip back into it. But it does make you feel slightly rude when you can't respond. I suppose the comment that someone is only truly Welsh if they can speak the language is relatively true in many aspects. But I do think the meaning of what is truly Welsh differs depending on where you are in the country. At home in North Wales, we celebrate St David's Day. We learn the language in school, but on a day-to-day basis, speaking the language isn't particularly necessary. Whereas the further west you go, the more likely it is you'll find people who have spoken Welsh for generations on generations. Looking at the contrast between the two, I think I would actually say that true Welshness is more subjective to who you are and what being Welsh means to you. Even though I don't speak Welsh, I would say that the preservation of the language is incredibly important. But I wouldn't say that Welsh culture relies entirely on the language. I think Welsh culture is more heavily grounded by simple, traditional rural values, where community and family-run businesses are at the centre. My mum often speaks about the fact that my great-grandparents spoke fluent Welsh at home, but it was their generation where it became untrendy to speak the language, so they made the decision not to pass it on to their children. And it does feel like a shame that that decision at one point in time has resulted on the language missing 3 extra generations.
I was born in North Wales and now live in London. I was given the opportunity to carry on learning Welsh language and literature at Year 9, with options for Years 10 and 11. I was assigned into a bilingual class from Year 7 and had no option but to attend Welsh class for the first 3 years of high school. Both my father and sister speak Welsh, but we communicate together in English. No other members of my family speak Welsh. I've struggled with feeling unaccepted all my life, until I left Wales at 19. I was never fully accepted into my village community or primary school, as I was the only child in the primary school who was bilingual. In high school, kids on my bus took to disliking me for those reasons. When in my teens, working in a village close by, they made it known that they were not happy with an Englishman serving them. In the farming community, I was one of the only kids not raised on a farm as well. Someone is only truly Welsh if they speak the language. I think from my prior answer, that's not the case. I was at the time fully fluent in Welsh, and the only person I spoke English to was my English mother. But to this day, I don't feel fully Welsh, even though I'm able to speak it when home in Wales. I have many childish memories of feeling excluded. At school times I had scuffles with wannabe bullies, but I was able to stand my ground. Mainly the exclusion was when they thought I only spoke English, whilst I was working at a bar and they chose to speak Welsh, knowing the other barman with me couldn't speak it. Welsh doesn't mean much to me as a language, but I think it's a wonderful heritage and history. I believe in history, and so, yes, it's important for humanity in some ways to respect the language, but it doesn't affect my heritage. Wales as a land is magical, and I had a unique upbringing in a time and place where it was rare to have an English speaker. My experiences are led from immature minds, but my experience of learning and seeing the history of Wales and Owain Glyndwr still make me respect the country and its culture.